Yo, hey everybody. I'm going to try to thread this needle and talk about Reiki and masculinity in particular. I think it's a tricky concept because of the nature of energy work, and indeed, I would say the energy itself. Also, it flows into how we talk about energy work, and this creates an effect where the masculine, or at least the masculine force, the active force, as opposed to the resonant being, is under discussed. So, why is that? Well, healing itself is often seen as a more feminine and gentle practice. When we think of nurses, for instance, I think many of us tend to think of a female nurse. Now, I know that that's not at all how it works. There are many awesome male nurses out there. I've been treated by some. Shout out to all the male health practitioners out there. That being said, even when I went to school for psychology being a school you go into, one, to learn about the mind, but two, to help within the healthcare field, either through psychiatry, psychology, or psychological healthcare. When I was in those classes, I was very often the only male there, and I'm talking all the way down from 100 classes all the way up to 500. It was very common that maybe there was 2 or 3 of us to every 10 women, and even in the doctoral fields, which we typically think of as being headed by men, I think if you've been into hospitals and healthcare facilities lately, you will note that many women are now within those top level jobs. So there is that inherent sort of biological connection we have to the art of healing and femininity. Similarly, as I said before, the way in which we use language, particularly in the art of energy work, really leans towards feminine description. And again, when I say feminine description, I'm not saying that one or the other, masculine or feminine, is better. I'm simply saying we as psychic beings tend to divide things in two in order to understand them. That's a wavelength. That's black and white, right? Black isn't any better than white. Red isn't any better than yellow or anything like that. They're just different ends of spectrums. And our perception, whether it's our eyes or even our mind, tends to create dualism, including the early forms of studying energy work, which I would argue most definitively and succinctly in terms of Reiki are things like Taoism. Taoism meaning the yin yang, which is the idea of there is light and there is dark, and within each there is one another, right? So when we say things like receptive, we receive the energy, we allow the energy in and let it flow through us, these terms really resonate as more feminine descriptions of what we're doing. And although, I've talked about in other videos, particularly in What is Reiki, that there is an active force in Reiki, of course, because the flow of energy is moving somewhere and that takes action. And that's diametrically opposed to the idea of non-movement or resonant being or just being, however you want to call it. And so the very act of moving the energy around, whether it's in your own body or in a recipient's, involves some sort of forceful movement through space, and that could be classified as masculine. But I think in the art of Reiki, there's a lot better of an avenue to go about this. And if you're a guy and you're looking for something to sort of grab onto, particularly if you've struggled with things like religion, Reiki has a really great access point for this. And that's because when I think of Rei, I do think of it as the kanji, the Japanese, describes it in terms of soul, spirit, guiding force from the heavens. Those type of words evoke an understanding or a similar connection in our minds in the West to God. And I think that that's actually okay here. It's okay to have that connection, because I think of, and when I do the Reiki sessions, I feel directly that Ray, the higher level ordinate consciousness part of Reiki, is a decision maker. Now, when I'm doing Reiki, either on myself, when I'm doing it on myself or on someone else, I can maybe feel where I'm feeling a problem, or on them, on a recipient as well. But though you treating yourself may manifest as just putting your hand on something that hurts, there is a level of allowance, again, kind of a feminine word, where you are connected with the energy to such a point that it is not telling you that you are to do this. It's not like a hand is grabbing your hand and moving it to the next spot. It's more like a co-decision making process. It's not something you surrender your will to. It's indeed a lifting up of your will to a higher functioning level. With access to Ray, you can draw from your unconscious. And what do I mean by your unconscious? I mean everything that your mind isn't currently focusing on right now. Whether it's your personality or just thoughts on your mind, there are plenty parts of yourself that you're not actively thinking about. Those parts are being managed by your unconscious. We're going back to Freud. We're going back to Carl Jung. I think most people, even within the psychological community, psychology community, science community, and energy working community all agree that there is a conscious mind that we are currently experiencing, and unless you're on your phone right now, and an unconscious mind that holds all the unaccessed parts of ourselves at bay or in waiting until they are readily accessed. Accessing this energy, using the breathing, using the grounding, using the techniques, using the hand positions, using the thought processes that I've covered in some of these videos, that can get you tuned in and allow you to intuitively access your own unconscious. And in doing so, it allows an ease of movement and an ease of thinking and an ease of decision making that can allow you to make the most effective, logical choices. And then through the good feeling resonant power of the energy, you're not feeling lack, you're not feeling despair, you're not feeling like anyone owes you anything, and you are standing in resonance with your own higher good. And in doing that, you realize that the energy of your higher good, the energy of somewhat what we would call your higher self, is you. And that, I mean, attaining that oneness with yourself in order to be the most efficient, powerful manifestation version of yourself that you can be, and be able to flow the energy to keep that version of yourself going, that is attaining the highest good. And attaining the highest good is pretty manly. All right, thanks guys. Have a good weekend.